Hi guys, welcome to Die's Crafty Corner. Today I'm welcoming you to the Craft Collabs favorite fall colors hop. Sweater weather has arrived. Okay, maybe not for South Florida guys, but for some of you lucky guys, sweater weather is here. And we are so inspired by the glorious colors this time of year. Everyone is sharing their favorite fall color combinations in their projects to delight and inspire you. We hope you enjoy the projects and thanks for hopping along. You can find all the participants listed in the information box below this video. So for my project today, I'm going to be doing some fall leaves. I love to scatter in my own handmade fall leaves with all of my fall decor. And in fact, the leaves that I'm doing today will be placed on a white sweater with 3 candles sitting on top of it in my hutch above my television. So I'm going to be, I stamped these out already with some black, with VersaFine black ink. And then I've put my gold embossing powder over the top. I wanted to share this with you because not many people know that you can use black ink and still emboss gold over it, as well as many other colors, and it turns out beautiful, as you can see. So don't be afraid of that. I'm going to take the coordinating dies and I'm going to cut out, I don't know, maybe 10 of these leaves, I'm thinking. And here they are, super beautiful. Now it's time for the fun. I'm going to share with you my favorite distress colors, distress ink colors for fall. These are the colors that I reach for every single fall, without fail, either in Distress Oxide, which we're using today, or Distress Inks. So Vintage Photo, Barn Door, Carved Pumpkin, Wild Honey, Peeled Paint, a little bit of Forest Moss, Mustard Yellow, Rusty Hinge, and Candied Apple. I love that Candy Apple for just a pop of really bright red. Super pretty colors. All right, let's get started. I'm going to be sharing with you 3 different techniques that I use when I'm doing my blending on my leaves or any of my fall colors. So this is how I get them to kind of look the way they do in the end. It's a process. And as you'll see, I'm going to be showing you 3 different processes, or 2 different processes, I'm not sure. But I often mix all of these together. That's the joy and the brilliance behind Distress Oxides. You can keep layering them until you're happy. You can do blending with your brushes or your foam blending tools, followed by squish method, followed by, whatever. You can keep blending them over and over again. Now, the thing that I did not share here, most of the time, if I'm not doing this, the embossing technique on my leaves, I will crunch them up. I will cut them out and then I will crunch them up so they look old and withered. I'll flatten them back out and then I will distress them. Okay, so keep that in mind. That's another great way of doing this. So all I do is I start by adding my colors any which way. This particular leaf, I'm just using all of the colors in a row, but sometimes I do 2 chunks of red, 2 chunks of orange. It's never the same, right? I just like to blend them out as I go. So I'm going to add my colors down, and then I'm going to come in with my favorite brown of life, which is Vintage Photo. I'm going to add a little Vintage Photo to one part of the leaf, and then I'm going to take my little sponge daubers, which are as brilliant as these blending brushes. I use both of these tools. The blending brushes are the very inexpensive ones that I got off of Amazon, and the ink daubers, the sponge daubers that I'm using, are also from Amazon, and they're very inexpensive. So I keep one for my Distress Oxides and one for my Distress Inks. You don't want to mix those 2. I take the Vintage Photo and I go around the edges of each one of the leaves, making sure a little bit of brown is spread to the top of the leaf. I feel that that is very important in this process because the leaves don't normally look that fresh off the tree. You know what I'm saying? So adding a little bit of brown to the edges helps them to look a little more realistic, or as realistic as these leaves are going to look considering I piled them up with gold, right? So then I go back in with all my colors and I just blend them together so that they don't look like they're just blotches of color on the leaf, but that they're blended. The colors are kind of blended together as you might find them in nature. Once I'm happy with the way it looks, and I'm pretty happy with that, you have two options. You can leave it that way and let it dry. You can go back in and blend some more color on it for vibrancy, or you can water it down. You can sprinkle some water on it, which I'm going to do. I'm going to show you that right now. I'm going to take a spritzer, I'm going to spritz some water on it, and then I'm going to put some big dots of water on it. I'll take my ink towel and then I will wipe those dots off, or press it down and just absorb the water that's on top of the leaf. And then look, that's what it looks like. So that gives you that added kind of faded, worn out look of the leaf that's been laying on the ground. But maybe sometimes it's too much, so then I'll go in and I'll add a little more color on top. You're still going to see that hint of the water underneath it, the water spot underneath it, but it's not so in your face, right? So I'm happy with that. Love that technique. And then I'm going to move along to the second technique, and I usually do it just this way because the ink is all sitting there ready to be used. It's on the mat, just sitting there saying, hey Diane, don't leave me here, right? So I'm going to take my spritzer and I'm going to grab another leaf and I'm going to spray this paint down that's on my desk, and I'm going to start smooshing that paper into the paint or to the Distress Oxide that's on my mat. Okay, pull it up, do it again, dry it off with my heat tool in between until I get the color saturation that I'm looking for. Now this technique is going to give you a softer watercolored kind of looking leaf. It's not going to be as vibrant, but it's super cool. I've also done this technique on off-white paper, or even almost a little bit of a tan paper, and with the Distress Oxides, and it turns out wonderful, absolutely wonderful. So that's what it's gonna look like. Super cool, right? Here it is compared to the other one. Totally different technique, but they're all gonna look great together. Okay, now my next technique is kind of the same, only I have a little more control. So I'm adding the paper onto just a piece of packaging, right? I'm adding the paper, I'm adding the ink just to a piece of packaging. So I'm adding 4 different colors. I'm using the I'm not sure, mustard, no, I used wild honey in this one, the carved pumpkin, peeled paint, and barn door, it looks like. And then I wet the leaf. Now I wet the leaf because I wanted to give it something to spread out to in a hurry, right? It's going to take it less time because the leaf is already wet. This technique works wonderful if you've wet your leaf and scrunched it up, right? So if you take this leaf and you crunch it up in your hands, and then you spread it out and you use this technique, it's going to soak into the fibers of the paper even faster, and it's going to sink into the nooks and crannies of where you've crinkled the paper. It's a great technique. So again, just added the color where I wanted it to be. I'm going to dry it in between so that I can go back and add more color, and I will keep doing that. I'll keep adding the color in, drying it off until I get the technique that I want, right? Now look at those. They look super good, right? Totally different, really different than the first one, but they all look perfect. Now, also with those leaves, you can tell how there's spots of color here and there. If you go back over those leaves with your Distress Oxide inks, it's going to build another layer. It's going to give you those spots on top as well as show them through with the new color on top. So just keep going until you're happy. That's what I do. Now my third technique is to use the daubers. Again, the ink blending daubers make this super fast, super fun, and it blends just as good as the brushes. And I think that I don't even have a way that I like it better. I enjoy all of these ways. The inkier my fingers are, the happier I am. So again, I'm just going to take the colors that I've chosen. Again, right now I'm working with the Rusty Hinge, it looks like, the mustard seed, definitely have the red and the green. I'm using both reds on this one, the candy apple and the barn door. I'm going to use a little bit of both. I'm going to come in with the candy apple and I'm coming in with the candy apple first. I'm going to add the barn door around the outside edges just to give it a little darker. And that's all I'm going to do. I'm going to blend it all together, and I'm going to do the same thing on the other one. On the bigger of the leaves, I add the red in 2 different places instead of just going around the outside. I love to mix the red and the orange together. It comes out so vibrant, so pretty. I absolutely love it. So whether you're using ink blending daubers or brushes or ink smooshing or any combination of this, it's all going to look fantastic. So the very end, I don't know whether I show it to you on camera or not, but the first leaf that I did the water technique on, where I sprayed the water on it and it made it kind of muted and more chalkier than the other ones. I'm going to be coming in and putting a little more color over the top of that, and you're going to see when the final project is done, when all the leaves are sitting here, that they just all look beautiful, all of them, and the gold just adds a little bit of detail. All right, so I'm still working on that leaf, right? I'm still working on the big leaf. Again, like I said, I started with the reds and I just threw in some color going around the edge, and then at the very bottom and part of the leaf I'm adding the vintage photo. But on all of these leaves, before they're finished, I will be going over the edges with vintage photo. That happens with every single leaf. I think that this one that I'm working on right now turned out to be one of my favorites. I just love the way it all blended together. I love when you don't have a plan, right? When you just throw the color down. Like the first one, I had a plan. I was going to go red, orange, yellow, green, brown. For this last one, I just kind of did it. And I think that the leaves turn out better for me when I just do it, when I just throw a couple of colors down and go from there, which is what I did with this leaf. I threw down 2 sections of red and then I just added color as I went along. And it turned out super pretty and vibrant. Loved it. I absolutely loved it. All right, so here's all of them. I think that they all look different and beautiful. I just think that they're absolutely gorgeous. So look at my hands, guys. Not kidding. So inky. Isn't that pretty? So that's the way the watercolored kind of one looked compared to the other one. Like I said, I'm gonna add a little something more, but I think that it looks more realistic if you do the smooshing technique, right? I really do. So now I've gone in and I've added more layers on top, and look how fantastic that looks. I'm gonna take this shimmer. This is Shimmer Spritz in Sparkle. The Sparkle is my favorite one, and I'm gonna go ahead and add a little more dimension and a little shimmer to the top of these with that shimmer mist, if you will. It's going to add a little more water effect, but it's also going to give it this great little shimmer. And then I'm going to take my art glitter glue and I'm going to curl these leaves over, because these leaves are still workable right now. They're not dry yet. They're still a little bit damp from all that ink. They've been saturated, and I want to give them a little bit of definition. So I'm like rolling them up, rolling them backwards, and then I'm setting them back down on my desk to dry. And isn't that gorgeous? They're so pretty. It's going to take me days to get my hands clean. Absolutely days. See how it just gives it a little curl, and they're going to dry that way, and they'll stay that way all season that I have them out. They'll stay curled just like that. All right, here's the final pictures. I hope I didn't bore you guys too much. I completely enjoyed this hop. I cannot wait to see what everybody does. Here's my final picture, as well as my little piece of sweater that I will have my candles on top of in my hutch. I hope you guys hop along, and please let me know which one of these techniques did you like the best, and can you pick one of those leaves out of the pile that you think is the best. I love you guys, and I'll see you in the next video. Happy fall. Bye, guys.